Alright, so I know it's a little late in the game for it, but the JJ Redick, Charles Barkley whole thing. One, I was like, it's kind of funny because I was like, I'm one that likes the TNT crew and Charles Barkley and all them, so I always think it's a little bit funny. But the whole thing with JJ Redick and all that, I already sort of knew once I heard JJ that it was going to go popping off. Uh, I will say, only I was like, I think both people have a real credible case though. To be honest, like I was like, I'm not gonna bash too hard on basically what JJ said of the media uh, being negative or whatever. I don't think it had anything to do with the casual fans or that's a reason for the droppings or whatever like that. Because to be honest, I was like, that doesn't me watching is sort of what does it for. And I think what most people does it. I was like, don't get me wrong. I was like, this is kind of like think about like a movie review. If enough people tell you that, hey, the movie's not gonna be good, yeah, that could tend to make you not want to go see it or whatever. Even though you can draw your own opinions, guess what? That might be the case. Now, granted, I will say that depending on how you pay for these things, I think is a big call. Because I was like, if somebody was telling me, hey, this movie's not that good, but here's a free ticket, I'm going to go see the movie, regardless of it being possibly bad. Or something thing with, like, if the game is on ESPN or TNT or whatever, I can go watch it. Man, I ain't got to worry about it. But if you got to go pay for it and you got to go get all this other stuff, same thing of if you got like the league pass or whatever, you're not gonna maybe be inclined to watch a whole bunch of games. But I was like, I don't think that anybody. I don't think for the most part anybody bashed it. I was like, I don't think he was talking, to be honest, at Charles specifically, but he said media people, and that's a wide range of people that I don't. That's like you need to sort of like be a little bit more specific on who you're talking about. Because I was like, are you talking about the TNT people? They're media. I was like, are you talking about like First Take? That's media. I was like, but anything you talking about, but anybody that's on YouTube, that's media now. So you could be talking about a hell of a lot of people or whatever. I was like, obviously, I feel like it's really sort of like old heads and it's people who never played the game. I feel like that's who he's really talking about. I was like, I don't think he'll say something where it's like Gil's Arena or 520 with a T or a podcast P or nothing like that. I don't think that's where he's necessarily going, because all those are either his peers or I was like, in some form of way. I was like, yeah, but I disagree with the whole casual take, because I was like, now granted, I was like, something like the NFL doesn't really do things like that, but I was like, they have in the past. I was like, and Charles, I think from his end is basically saying, I first I think he was like being tongue in cheek, he was being funny with it, like as they always do with a lot of this stuff, where it's just kind of like he's like, if you aim for the king, you better not miss. I'm like, he just sort of joking around or whatever, but he does bash on the leg quite a bit. But I was like, also that he sort of falls in line with, if you look at a lot of people and what their criticism is that we keep talking about LeBron a lot, or we talk about the Lakers a lot. No differently than how people get mad at, we always talk about that, people talk about the Cowboys a lot. I was like, so in that frame, he's over here saying like y'all aren't a good enough team in order to basically be talked about the way y'all do, even though y'all got LeBron and all that other stuff. I was like, I think that on the one hand, they do give, I was like, they don't really bash as much as people think or whatever. Because I was like, when they look at Giannis, they talk really good about Giannis. When they talk about Jokic, they talk really good about Jokic. I was like, SGA, like they talk really good about some of the time, like top players or whatever. But they'll also criticize and call people out. But I was like, you can't overhear the thing that you're supposed to be praised all the time. And also, I don't know what that necessarily looks like as what JJ is saying either, because I was like, because I'm like, what is this form? Like, yes, recently with the ratings dropping and stuff like that, it has been around a lot of negativity that has came basically with playing basketball. But for the most part, what is the other negativity that you sort of really get? Like, I know it's like that you don't really see in like maybe like in other sports or whatever. The 3-point line, I was like, that's been a major talking point this year as it's gotten more ramped up. But I think that's really because like you starting to see even some of the people that do. I was like, like how Anthony Edwards was over here shooting a lot of threes, like especially early on. That I was like, I think that people get that criticism. That is it got more heightened or whatever. That or Ja Morant just saying like he ain't gonna dunk anymore type of thing. I think that's maybe sort of contribute because it's just like I think for like some people just like, oh, does that mean he's gonna be shooting threes or something like that? But even then, that's a little bit. I feel like that's a little bit of a reach there. And I was like, whatever you sort of feel like you get from Twitter or NBA Twitter or whatever like that, you can miss me with some of that because I was like on there. I was like, that's where you gonna get some of your stuff from or the people that's on there that is very critical of the entertainment spot of that people do, where it just kind of seems like first take and stuff like that. And they're just like, I wish I really had like the analytical type of stuff or whatever that JJ would do. And I was like, there's people that you could have gone for that, where it was JJ or Zach Lowe and stuff like that. There's people out there that's doing this breakdown and really talking about it. I was like Kenny Beecham and stuff like that with I was like, they changed. I was like, it used to be through the wire, and they numbers on the board and stuff like that. There are people for you to go to if that's how you sort of feel like you want to have more in-depth basketball than just a whole bunch of old bald-headed people talking about basketball on TNT or whatever. So I think that JJ's reaching because I think like everybody else, you're just over here trying to figure out the problem or if there even is really an issue that's going on, or at least the talking about around the NBA. Because I think at some point I think this will sort of pass. Like, yeah, this is not. I was like, is it a concern? I was like, a little bit. I was like, but I was like, but I think all sports sort of go through this sort of thing or whatever. I was like, with saying that, I was like, cause I was like, there was some other stuff that sort of threw in with the JJ thing of like, I seen like people talking about like, like Bazula was over here talking about basically points in the NBA and being like, who doesn't like points and stuff like that, because they were over here also talking about like 3-point shot being really high. And I would listen to listen to Jacoby on the mismatch, and they were talking about, they were sort of saying the same thing, and I was like, points isn't a problem. That's not, people don't have a problem with more points. It's the way, it's the way that it sort of goes about with getting the points. The same thing, like, I was like, their competition, the NFL. The NFL has points. That's what they created that whole thing. But in the process, what that means that you got really quarterback driven, and you were just launching the ball all over the place to the point that running backs got devalued, to the point that the defenses couldn't do anything, and that got sort of like taken out a bit. Just sort of like the NBA in a sense, where it's just like the 3-point shot is playing a lot. That makes it a little bit harder to play defenses in the same way that it used to back in the day, because you got switches, and so you got to cover more ground and stuff like that. And some of that is the 3-point shot, and some of that is also because nobody has also really adapted to basically being like no switching on things. And sometimes I understand that's hard, but at the same time, I was like, there's ways around it. But I just thought that was, but I'm just like thinking that like some of their reasons for things just also just like, y'all are really just finding ways to basically try to figure out a problem. I get it, but I feel like y'all are coming up the wrong type of way about it, So anyway, conclusion of the JJ Charles thing is that I side more with Charles. I was like, and I was like, and I'm somebody that I like JJ Redick's the man of the three. I was like that. I always forget it because I was like, it was always a weird name. But also his podcast with him and LeBron. I was like, even though I was like, guess what? If you don't really like, I was like, I liked it, but I also understood when I heard other people being like, like some people be like they liked it, and then some people thought it was boring, because I was like, yeah, that stuff can get boring if you're not looking for looking like in that way of like being interesting. Because I was like, you're doing too much, and I was like, I think that's sort of where Charles comes from. It's like, you're doing too much, y'all ain't getting the product done, this stuff sucks or whatever. And look at the other two coaches that happened before you and that kind of thing. You're doing a lot for something that seems out of the element of trying to fix or whatever. But anyway, I was like, well, obviously by now I think everybody. So I was like, I think for JJ, I was like, he took the mature route or whatever. Also, I think he just really sort of knows that Charles is really just sort of joking. That why even bother trying to build up the effort to be combative in this sense where it's like he's JJ's one of them dudes that's like, I'm smarter than you, so I'm not even going to get into this argument. While yes, that can also be a good thing because it's like I'm just not gonna get into this argument because we're gonna go back and forth like I told you so. Nobody got time for all that. And he's doing his little show. I got a team to run. There's no point in doing all this. But at the same time, I will say where it's like I don't really care. Like you can't say that when you're over here. It's like starting a fight at the same time. But anyway, let me know what y'all think. I was like, do you think that them bashing is what causes casual fans to run away, or Charles Wright, or basically like, you know, your team's not that great, like, you know, and also too like I know it's also divisive now with the TNT crew as well too. But anyway, let me know what you think. Until then, peace. I'm out.